Welcome back. Let's try to understand HTML, the elements, tags, and attributes. So from the very high level, the HTML, again, is the building blocks that represent the structure of your page. And we're going to talk about the foundation today. So what I wanted to do was open up a text editor. I'm using VS Code today, but you can use any text editor you'd like. Atom is a good option. VS Code is a good option. Sublime, TextMate, Vim. If you're using full Visual Studios, or there's just tons and tons of editors that you can use that are a little bit better than just a raw text editor. So if you're writing your code, I would recommend starting with in a code editor like VS Code or something like Atom. That way you have some syntax highlighting, which will show you kind of like different bits of the code and whether or not it's correct. So it's a little bit better than writing it in like a Microsoft Word document or in just, MS Text or something. So I would download and install VS Code if you haven't already, or Atom. It doesn't really matter which, so we'll kind of like walk through the steps today. All right, so we're going to create a brand new HTML file. So we'll go File, New File, and we want to save this as a file with an HTML extension. So we're going to say, this is index.html. So by adding the .html extension, we'll know that this is a file that is written in HTML. This will also help the browser know what file type it's loading. It'll also help your text editor know which language it should be syntax highlighting for. So we're going to create it with index.html. Now, index is just kind of like a conventional name, and oftentimes web servers that are serving your files will look for an index or a default file. So this is going to be called index.html. This is kind of the entry point into a website. So we're saving this file as index.html. And in this file, we want to write some HTML code. So an HTML tag is surrounded by these angle brackets. And the very first tag in the page, and in fact, every single HTML document, sometimes they're called documents or pages, every single HTML document has this one tag, this HTML tag that wraps the entire document. Now, most HTML tags have an opening tag and a closing tag. So here you'll see that we wrote HTML inside of these angle brackets. And then down below we have HTML inside angle brackets, but it's like right after the opening angle bracket, we have a slash before HTML. This tells us that we're looking at the closing tag for the HTML tags, okay? Generally, inside of your HTML tag, you will have two children. You'll have a head and a body. Okay. The head tag is used to represent information about the page. The head tag will tell you things like the title, which shows up inside of the tab. You can also set things like the favicon, metadata about the page. You can load JavaScript, you can load CSS. Typically, the content of the head, you don't actually ever see that rendered in the visible space of the page. The browser is determining what to show on the web page based on what is in your HTML document. So in the head tag, the stuff that is in the head tag is not actually rendered into the content of the page. The things that are in the body are in fact rendered as content into the body of the page. So this is what you see. So most or all HTML pages are going to look exactly like this, right? They're going to start with HTML, they're going to end with a closing HTML tag, and then we're going to have a starting head tag and a closing head tag, followed by an opening body tag and a closing body tag. So notice that these are sibling elements. So we have the head tag is a sibling to the body tag, and both of those elements parent is the HTML tag. So kind of we're building up sort of a tree structure where we have HTML as like the most top level parent, and then nested inside of that we have a head and we have a body, and then inside of the body we could write other HTML like a paragraph tag. Hi, this is a paragraph. or whatever other content we want to render. We can images, tables, paragraphs, lists, things like that will appear inside of the body, and then we can style those with CSS. So one other thing that you will typically see in an HTML file is before the HTML tag, we will have a doctype HTML, and this tells the browser, this isn't a tag, this is, but this tells the browser what type of document we're loading. So this is an HTML document that we want to load. HTML5 is the doc type here. Older versions of HTML might specify, like, this is this version of HTML with like a longer doc type. But this is the newest and latest and greatest, and this is what you want to start with for now at the top. So we have this doc type declaration, and then we have the HTML, which has the head and body tags. And again, the content of the head is not really shown in the view, the main view of the browser, and the body, the content of the body is, the head is information about the page, and the body is the actual content of the page. Okay, so now we have our index.html page. Let's put that paragraph tag back in. Hello world. That's like the most common, right? Okay, and now we want to somehow view this page on the browser. So depending on which editor you're using, you might be able to just click, drag, and drop into the browser and then hit enter, and this will load as a file. So we see that hello world is rendering. That's the code that we wrote here. If we wanted, we could put it, like an h1 tag. This is a header. Hi there. So we save and we come over, and even though we changed the code, the HTML code, it's not going to change in the browser until we refresh the browser. Refreshing the browser is going to say, ask for that HTML, and then the browser is going to interpret that HTML. So by default, the browser doesn't refresh as you're making changes to the code. So we need to come back over here and refresh, and now we see the new code that we added. And if we wanted to, we could right click and say inspect, and we can look at the HTML that's coming back. So we see the doc type HTML, we see the HTML head and body, and then we'll see a little arrow here which allows us to expand the body element and see its children. So we can see the hello there paragraph tag and the h1 tag. I want to get into all the different tags later, but I really just wanted to show the structure and the bones, which are the HTML, the head, the body. That is the foundation that we're going to use to build up every single HTML page. All right, we'll be back with the next episode. We're going to cover a bunch of different tags and what they mean. So hopefully that was helpful.